Welcome back. I'm John, a full-time dad, full-time worker, and a part-time triathlete. So as you can see from the title, this is attempting something not that smart. I'm actually currently training for IRONMAN Portugal, which is about 10 weeks away, and I planned at some point in my training to do a half-distance triathlon, which is basically the same distance I'll do for the Ironman, but half. Anyway, before signing up for any sort of race, I just kind of plan to do a normal training week this week.
Morning, it's Monday. We have just finished a swim. I forgot my pool boy. Normally I do like 500 meters warm up, then 500 meters with the pool boy, but forgot that, so I just did like 750 warm up. Then I was going to do 5 by 200 meters. The third one I forgot to stop, so I think I did 300 meters, and then the fourth one, the pool was just so crowded by that point. I don't really understand. And one guy that was breaststroking one lap and then front crawling the next, but his front crawl was so fast that he was overtaking me, and then I'd overtake him when he was breaststroking, and then he'd overtake me again. Anyway, we've got plenty more time to swim this week. Less than 11 weeks to go till Ironman, which yes, is very scary. In some ways I feel prepared, in other ways not so much. Okay, we are back on the bike. Not really done much since the swim this morning. Bit of editing, had some porridge, so now we're going to grind out this. It's only a 54-minute interval session on Zwift and watch some Mandalorian at the same time. The last ride I did was Saturday morning, did 100 kilometers, which is my longest ever Zwift ride. I've moved the room around, so I'm right next to the window now, so I've got a top on for now. I don't know how long that's going to stay on. I also had to move my room around because we're getting some new special guests. We've rescued 3 guinea pigs, so yeah, new additions to the ever-growing family, and Arlo is already loving them. Finishing off the day now with a little run with the dog. Still number one priority, of course, and the guinea pigs can't really run. Just out for a little Thursday morning run with the pram. Was going to plan to do 5k, just running before I go swimming with little man, so not sure I'm going to be able to fit the full 5k in. I only got about 20 minutes, so might be like 3.5, something like that. 2 miles, still a good little run, stretch the legs. Fairly easy day today. Did plan to go on the bike, if I can squeeze that in before work, we will see. But yeah, gonna do a few loops of this park, then go for a little swim, ain't we, mate? Back on the bike again. Not planning to do a bike today. I was supposed to go swimming at like 8:10 this morning. Didn't end up getting up till 8:10. I can't even go swimming later because they basically close all the lanes at 9 o'clock. Hour-long ride. It's about how long I should have gone for a swim anyway. And then the plan is later to go open water swimming, which I have booked. So it would have been a double swimming day.
Actually, during that Zwift ride, I decided to pop on Facebook towards the end, check out my local triathlon club, where someone had just posted about the Cowman half-distance triathlon this weekend. I was meant to be with Arlo all day on Sunday. I didn't have work, thankfully, but I'd have to see if someone else could look after him. Guinea pigs, can you keep it down? I also wasn't even sure if I'd be able to get to the event. I didn't know if I'd have to register the day before or anything like that. So I just kind of, check with Nicole, see if potentially her mum could look after Arlo for the day, and then yeah, kind of headed off for an evening swim. Didn't really think much about it. Okay, we're in the evening now. We made it out for a swim. Open water, Mallory Park, because Stanton Lakes, I think it was, I went to a few weeks ago. The weeds were pretty bad then, and now the weeds have got so bad that you can't swim there. So I did a short run after the open water swim, and by this time got to drive home, and yeah, babysitting was sorted. I didn't have to check in until the day of the race, and the next morning, the Thursday, I'd signed up. The next couple of days I didn't really train. I wanted to try and save my legs, save my energy. I'd planned to do like a certain amount of hours that week, and really if I did as long as I thought I would in the race, that would make up a lot of the hours. I wanted to kind of spend any free time I had basically doing my prep for the race. I haven't even been off my bike in 4 weeks before this because I'd fallen off the bike. It is the day before the race. My bike has been on the turbo trainer for the last 4 weeks. I'm going to finally take that off. I was hoping to go for a test ride. It is absolutely pouring it down and I've got to go to work. New shoes, which I've again put the cleats on. I was hoping to do a test ride. Haven't worn them yet, so there's nothing new on race day rule. I'm definitely braking. Aero bars, I've only used those indoors. So yeah, I'm going to get the bike off the trainer, get the wheel on, get that all ready. I've also got work tonight, so I'll literally finish work tonight at 10 PM, get home, go straight to bed, probably have 5 hours sleep, and then go and do a half Ironman. Not ideal, but probably good practice for the Ironman, because if anyone's done a big event or race like that before, you don't normally sleep much on the night before, you just kind of worry. I'm going to try and get as much stuff ready as I can now, so tomorrow morning I can just kind of focus on putting it in the car, eating, and then making my way there. Okay, it's race day morning. It's 4:20. I think I've had about 4 hours sleep. So just gonna have some porridge, some coffee, get the stuff in the car, and then I don't know, 45-minute drive I think it is,
to the start to get registered. I had my porridge, still drinking some coffee, and I've just gone through like a checklist, and I think I've got everything, so I'm going to go throw all the stuff in the car, and then I guess we'll leave.
Just want to interrupt the video quickly here to say a big thank you if you've watched this far and you're enjoying it. Please leave a like on the video, subscribe for more. We're going to do a lot more triathlon videos going forward, hence the name change. It was about a 40-minute drive to the start, so I'd hoped to be ready for a toilet break on the way, which I was, and then grabbed another coffee. I arrived at the parking and then quickly made one of my first mistakes of the day. I thought I was making a pretty good time, but I didn't realise it was like a 5-minute walk to and from transition, so walking back to the car now, I've registered. I just need to actually get my bike and all my gear, and then walk all the way back again for 5 minutes. I'm going to have to do one trip, so I'm going to have to carry quite a bit, I think. I really kind of annoyed myself here. I didn't really check in advance, and I don't really know how I could have known this. I don't think it said anywhere that there's going to be like a 5-minute walk to the car and back. Yeah, I really should have just took all my stuff in the first go and just got to the registration and sorted out all my gear when I got there, because yeah, I spent way too much time sorting this out. I kind of had to rush loads. I didn't end up filming anything after this point because yeah, I just had no time. There were still people showing up and getting ready, and I thought, okay, maybe other people are still arriving, so I've still probably got some time. Then I realised my number was blue and other people had green numbers, and then I'd quickly realised, okay, I guess there's more than one race in the same day, probably middle distance, and that's probably going to start way later, so I'm definitely behind. I quickly like threw all my stuff in a bag and basically rushed to the start. I think I just got my legs into my swimsuit and I was just like heading off. I was like, right, I'll sort out the rest when I get there. Got to the start, I'd already missed the briefing and people were already starting to get in the water, and I was really panicked at this point. I also kind of needed to go to the toilet, and it wasn't really the kind of toilet you could go to in a lake. I didn't really have time. I just kind of rushed quickly through all my stuff, see people starting to get in the lake, and I was really worried at this point. I was thinking, oh, are they starting already? Am I going to be right at the back? Am I going to be like minutes behind the people? I kind of realised as I got there towards the start, it was a mass start in the water, so I probably could have took a little bit of a longer time. I didn't really know that before, and yeah, it kind of ruined my transitions. I just knew at this point I had a rough goal in my head of like 6 hours and 30 minutes because my target for the full Ironman is 13 hours, so I thought, you know, if I can do half that in half the time with still 10 weeks to prepare, that should be enough to hopefully go sub 13 on the Ironman. But yeah, I was kind of thinking in my head, well, I'm just gonna have to do like 6:20 total race time, and if I spend 10 minutes in each transition, I just won't really worry too much about that. Someone from the triathlon club there, thankfully, so he helped me zip on my wetsuit, so I was all ready to go, and I just kind of asked him about the briefing, if there's anything I really need to know. It was basically going to be 2 laps on the swim, 2 laps on the bike, and then 4 laps on the run. And at some point on the bike, there was some point where you were supposed to stop at a giveaway. One thing I also forgot to do before the swim was to put some sun cream on. It wasn't really that hot at this point, but normally if I swim for like a long period of time, it can like rub on the back of my neck, and also then if I get burnt on there, it's very painful. But couldn't really do a lot at this point. I just got in the water and made it kind of into the middle of the pack, so I kind of managed to get forward a little bit, and it was very like weedy in there, which some people were not liking, but I kind of was used to that. And that was it. The 3 days of prep had all led up to this moment, and we got ready to start. I'm awful at pacing, so I just kind of stuck myself in the middle of a group and tried to keep up with the person in front of me, kind of keep one eye on the person on the left, one eye on the person on the right, and I thought, if there's one person on each side of me, someone in front of me, I'm definitely going in the right direction. Hopefully we'll be alright. I managed to stay in a pretty good position most of the time. I looked back a few times just to check that I wasn't at the back. A few people went past and I was thinking, oh no, am I like the last person? But every time I looked, there was like a decent group of people behind me. Towards the second lap, the group ahead of me kind of got away, so I was kind of basically leading the group at the rear. I did try to pick up the pace and try and catch the group in front, but I just couldn't kind of make it, and just kind of ended up with a gap of me somewhere in the middle. I did have a rough idea of how long each section could take, my 6 hours and 30 minutes, so I was thinking about 45 minutes for the swim, 3 hours 45, maybe a bit less for the bike, and then an hour 50 on the run. I'll be pretty happy with those, and that put me well within the 6 hour and 30 minutes. I actually ended up finishing the swim in 38 minutes. It didn't transfer to my training peaks, but I swear I did the swim. There's photo evidence of me getting out of the water, so you know, can't dispute it. So once I got out of the swim, headed straight to transition. The toilet break was no longer needed. That's not me saying that I pooped in the water. I managed to get most of my gear together. I couldn't find my heart rate monitor, so I didn't bother with that. I also had a can of Red Bull in my bag, which I poured into a plastic bottle. I was going to drink like half of that before going out on the bike, but I couldn't really find that either in the bag, and I felt like I was taking forever. So I just kind of grabbed everything I knew I needed and heading out for the bike. I had absolutely no idea how long my transition was. I'd done the swim on my watch, but then was doing the bike ride on my Garmin GPS. All I knew was it felt long, and I just wanted to get going. The bike was a struggle at the start though. 2 loops of the course, but each loop started with like a majority of the hills. The majority of the hills are in the first half of each loop. So after like the first 30 minutes, I'd only covered about 6 miles, and I was not feeling good at this point. I've been overtaken a lot, and I just felt really slow. I was also panicking, like doing the maths in my head. I was thinking this is going to take me like 4.5 hours at this pace. I do think the bike is an area I need to focus on, but with the swim time, I was pretty happy. Even if I doubled that in Portugal and did 4 minutes slower, that would still be like an 80 minutes. The problem with the bike is I was just slower than everyone. I got overtaken a lot, and I didn't overtake a single single person on the ride that wasn't having some sort of mechanical issue. I ended up picking up the pace quite a bit on the second half of the loop, and I really didn't need to panic as much as I had done. So I knew that if I could just go a little bit faster on the second lap, I could hopefully be pretty close to my time. The second lap did feel a lot faster. There wasn't as many people at this point behind me, so there wasn't really as many people to overtake me. And at one point, one guy did overtake me, but I managed to stay with him for like 20 miles or so. I think it was a good chunk of the second lap that I was just basically had this guy in my sights, and I was just kind of using him to pace me. I also knew the loop at this point, which, yeah, it's definitely something I need to do in Portugal. Whether it's go out and do a practice ride, probably not going to have time for that, but ideally like a practice run through in the car and just drive the route, because I felt way more comfortable, especially on the aero bars, knowing the routes. There were certain points where I knew, oh, I did this last lap and I know I can get on the aero bars for like a good few minutes here. I was a little bit worried because at no point I'd come across this giveaway, but it turns out I think I got there and the marshal was already there waiting in the middle of the road and there was no car coming, so he just flagged me to go. So yeah, didn't get disqualified, thankfully. Managed to finish the ride, not quite within my target of 3 hours 30 minutes, but a lot better than it looked at the start, and I felt good. I'd finished it and ate loads of food as well. I had 2 bottles with 400 calories in total, some electrolytes. I think I had 4 gels and 3 bars as well. So yeah, I felt pretty well fueled and ready to run. The transition felt slow again. Switching back to the watch this time, I had no real idea again of how much time I was spending in there. I found the Red Bull though, so I downed like half of that, grabbed my belt, grabbed my bottle of water, had 3 more gels, not like in one go, put them in my pockets, and then headed out for the run. And I ran. My first mile was like 7 minutes 30, I think, which is pretty fast for me on like a 5k, let alone a half marathon after already doing 3 hours and a half on the bike. It did slow down a bit as the laps went on because basically it was kind of split into 2 halves. So there was one section which was around a lake, which is like I swam in, and that was fairly flat, mostly paved, and then there was one section where you just go out through a field. It had been raining a lot the day before, it wasn't too muddy, but that also had some of the hills in it. But while I had struggled on those sections, I'd caught a lot of people on the first lap. I had a plan in my head with the gels to have one every 3 miles or so. I'd also carried the bottle of water with electrolytes in my running belt. It was a little bit annoying at first running with the belt, and obviously it's way quicker to run without it, but the fact I didn't have to stop a single time in the run made so much difference. There were loads of people I overtook while they were stopping at the aid stations and grabbing water. This is what really showed me I need to focus a lot more on the bike. All the people that overtook me on the bike, I was obviously faster than in the water, and now I was overtaking them on the run. So it's clear that my bike is just lagging behind everything else, and that definitely needs to be the focus going forward. The run was 4 laps, so I wanted to push it as much as I can for the fast sections. So on the downhills and the flats, really go for it. And then on the uphills, when I was going through the field, that's when I'd kind of have my gels, get some water in, take it a little bit easier. I forgot to put sun cream on, so I was feeling a little bit of a burn on the back of my neck at this point, but thankfully it was still fairly overcast despite being quite hot. But overall the plan worked and I ran really well, especially on the last like 2 miles. I managed to pick up the pace even more, and I finished with a time of 1 hour, 49 minutes and 26 seconds. So just under my target of 1 hour and 50 minutes, and considering I didn't really know what the route was going to be before, I was really happy with that. If this had been like a more paved route with slightly less hills, I would have gone way faster than this. I don't really know what my overall time was at this point. Nicole had planned to meet me at the finish, but I guess I got a bit faster than she thought, as her and Arlo showed up about 30 minutes later, but we did manage to get our finisher's picture. And what was the time at the end? 6 hours, 10 minutes and 5 seconds. Very happy with that. Somehow my transitions were like 5 minutes each. I don't know how. It felt like I was in there forever, but I'm really happy with that. I went through so much in that one day. You kind of always do in a race like this. I was really happy with the swim, and then I got onto the bike. I was annoyed at the start. It really got me down, and I was wondering if I was even going to do this, like why am I even here? But then by the end of the bike I felt pretty good, and then I was really happy with the run, super pleased with that. I was basically a write-off for a few days after the event, and that was my week's training kind of went out the window. I think I did 1 swim and didn't really do a lot else, but feeling a lot better now, feeling well recovered and feeling really focused, ready to move forward for IRONMAN Portugal, which is in October, so not long to go now. I'll go over my training plan for the next few weeks in the next video. My plan is going forward, or at least until race week, to do a video every other week. I know I've been doing weekly videos a lot of the time, but I'm thinking the couple of hours that I spend editing each week, if I could save that every other week, that might mean I could do a little bit more training, a little bit more time on the bike, and hopefully get the result I'm after in Portugal. We'll see what happens when we get closer to the race, because I want to get to tapering, and when we get actually out to Portugal I might have a bit more time and maybe try and do a few more videos then, but that's going to be the plan going forward. But thank you all for watching the video today. If you did enjoy, please leave a like, and I'll see you all soon.